Okay, the structure faces west, so that puts us on the south side wall. This is the fence, conducive by design. Okay. This is the lawn sprinkler head, closer to the wall than 12 inches. These are weep holes. They allow homeownership 101. All roofs leak, all walls leak. We design them to shed water faster than they accept it. These weep holes allow moisture, vapor, and water, whatever, to escape the wall system, to keep it dry. This is a sidewall clean out. This is the temperature pressure relief valve drain line for the water heater. It should not terminate farther from the ground than 6 inches, which it does. That's the clothes dryer vent. We got wasp nest in there that's going to keep it from opening 100%. And by today's standards, not yesterday's standards, but the last year, the standard changed for the size of those, and that no longer meets current exhaust standards. We have soffit vents. Those are that's the soffit vents. Those are air intake vents into the attic. Right there, okay, and there. The drip edge flashing, the metal between the fascia board, it's the soffit, it's the fascia board, that little strip of metal there. That's supposed to overlap 10 inches at a minimum. It never does, you'll hardly ever see it, but that's what it's supposed to do. This is a rain diverter. Okay, it's supposed to keep water off your condensing units, and you do have one up there, but I'm not sure that it meets the intent. It's there. This is called a control joint or an expansion joint. A lot of people like, bring you back to me. This is called a control joint or expansion joint, and that's that rain diverter. These units, this is the downstairs unit, this is the upstairs unit. These are your condensing units for your cooling system. They're not level. The pads do not raise them a minimum of 3 inches off of the ground. They're closer to the wall than 12 inches. This flexible insulation is no longer acceptable because this is what it does. Alright, we're missing some insulation. By today's standards, these Schrader valves, refrigerant service ports, by today's standards, these should have anti-theft devices on them. We're missing some insulation right there. Over here, this unit's freezing up. I'm going to turn it off when I get back into the house so that we don't do any damage. That's an indication of dirty evaporator coils, improper fan speed, or a low refrigerant charge, or some combination of all three. This wall should be sealed better where the refrigerant lines enter the house. This is the downstairs unit, like I said. Both of these units are 18 years old. They're engineered on paper to last 20. But in North Texas, we average about 14 years from these. So these guys have done just about everything anybody ever expected them to do. And any service you get from these guys is a gift. Now, these guys are both R22 refrigerant, not 410. R22 refrigerant is no longer manufactured, and it's very expensive to service. About any HVAC tech that comes out here to service your equipment is going to encourage you to update your systems. And at 18 years, they're probably less than 13 SEER. Downstairs is 3 ton, upstairs is 2 ton. These are your electric disconnects. These boxes are not supposed to be behind a condensing unit. You're supposed to be able to stand in front of those boxes and service them. It's not the case here. I took the cover off so I could observe. These boxes also should have been sealed. By today's standards, you would have an electric service receptacle outlet out here. It wasn't required when this house was built, by the way. This is the gas meter. It enters the south side of the garage. This is the electric meter. It enters the south side of the garage. Like the electric disconnects, this meter should also have been sealed to help prevent moisture from entering the structure. Coming along here, give your eyes a chance. Still on the south side interior wall of the garage. This is your electric service panel. This is called bundling. Very common and very wrong. Alright, so we got bundling. You have AFCI breakers. They're only present in the bedrooms, and that's the only place they were present when the house was built, but they do not meet current safety standards. These white wires coming in, these white hots, these would be for your air conditioning units. It looks like they're fused properly. They should have black tape wrapped around them. Then, this is the L1 and L2 coming into the house. This is your main neutral, and this guy should have been wrapped with white tape, just like these guys should have been wrapped with black tape. You shouldn't have a gap in your panel more than 1/4 of an inch. That's cutting it close. You shouldn't have sawdust, combustibles in there, rat turds. You should not have that. When this box was installed, they used sheetrock screws, drywall screws to install it. This box should have been installed with nails. Nails have more shear force. If we have a tornado or an earthquake or anything like that, screws break. Okay, nails have more shear force. So this is your lawn sprinkler system. No instructions. And then apparently it's labeled. As long as it's labeled, that's all I care about. So it's labeled for the purpose of this inspection. So we'll find out more about that. Because this is a single receptacle, okay, and the age of the house, it'll be reasonable to assume that this is not GFCI protected. Because of the age of the house, it'd be reasonable to assume that the garage ceiling receptacle is not GFCI protected. This is the water heater. It does not have a safety pan. It does not have a safety pan. Here's a safety pan over here. That is designed for a laundry, which we'll get into later. So here's your care and use manual. Okay, what we have here is we got a 55-gallon water heater, and this guy is 18 years old. Water heaters last about 10 years. Okay, the water supply lines are insulated, but we do not have escutcheon plates. And right there, that's the bonding, the electrical bonding for the house on the cold water side of the water heater. These water supply lines do not appear to have dielectric unions. It does appear to be grounded. The tank appears to be bonded. Okay, a lot of people will say these flexible drains are not permissible, but as long as it's not threaded on the end, and as long as it does not make a P-trap, you have positive, and that's questionable right there. But as long as you got positive drainage, that's honestly, it's not a foul. We do not have a safety pan, as I mentioned before. This does not have an expansion tank either. We'll check the water pressure later. This GFCI for the garage, okay, it will not test. Okay, it's inoperable. It wouldn't trip when tested electrically. We do not have GFCI on the exterior, and it'd be reasonable to assume that if you corrected this, you might get GFCI over here. You might, okay? And you probably will get GFCI on the exterior walls. This door should have a self-closing spring, okay, into the interior. As is this door should also have a self-closing spring. It's a closet under the stairs. The optic sensors are higher than 6 inches from the garage floor. All right? They should be 6 inches or closer to the garage floor. The door, this is a metal overhead car entry door. The door should have an interior handle and an exterior handle, so to operate in the manual operation, if it ever became necessary. This lock should have been decommissioned because you do have the door opener. I know it's one way, one the other way. It looks like there might be a handle here. We'll find out later. All right, so that should be decommissioned so you do not accidentally bend your door up because somebody locked it while you were gone. You came home and you pushed your remote control. So you should have a spring tension sticker on each of these two corners, which you do not. You should have a spring tension sticker in general, which you do not have a legible one. You do not have a legible safety notice. Okay, the notice is there, but it's not legible. The garage operator control button should not be closer to the garage floor or the garage door threshold than 5 feet, which it is. I'm going to yank you around a little bit. Okay. And that is AC 1 and 2, just like I suspected. These are not supposed to be handwritten. They're supposed to be typed out. The information about, and general stuff like plugs, the information is supposed to be much more specific than that. Wood mulch next to the house, that's conducive to wood destroying insects. It's conducive to termites. Okay, these exterior receptacle outlets on the front and the back, not only are they not GFCI protected, but they should have in-use covers. Some people call them bubble covers, so that you can actually plug something in and still have weather protection. This is the front door. It's got some dings in it. The water meter is out in the street by the curb. This is supposed to be the main shutoff valve to the house. I guess that's a rusty handle in there. I can't see the valve, so it's just not acceptable. This is the lawn sprinkler check valve, and they're supposed to be serviced once a year. None of them ever are. I get that. You're supposed to have 6 inches of clearance beneath it. Okay, so that, and then the floor should have been covered with gravel to keep this happening from the soil from washing back into it. And then these bleeders right here, these little relief valves, they should have had rubber caps on them. Coming along here, this front faucet, address, tree should not be closer to a slab foundation than 25 feet. This tree's touching the slab foundation there. There was some comment, I believe, someone was mentioning they call these corner pops. Well, that's a good name for it. You can call them that. They're actually shrinkage cracks. If they're 6 inches or the span of a hand and they're going that way, that is not a foundation issue. It could come off and become a brick issue, but what's happening is the cement for the concrete for the slab foundation shrinks. Your brick is the only part of your house that actually grows. You will not be able to measure that. So what happens is the brick and the concrete both have different thermodynamics. There's supposed to be a sheet of plastic or poly between the framing sole plate. Some people call it sill plate. Pier and beam is sill plate. Slab foundation is sole plate, but there should be a piece of poly beneath that sole plate to allow for this kind of movement, and it's never there, and it always shows up at the corners. Not a foundation issue. Not a foundation issue. Coming along here, brick, wooden chimney with chimney cap, wooden siding. Now this siding right here, if you look at this, let's see, we'll just grow you up here. The siding, those butt seams, they're supposed to have flashing beneath them, okay, little flashing strips, and they're not supposed to be sealed or caulked. You're supposed to create a drainage plane so water can exit the structure, because all walls leak. Come over here a little bit. There's some more of that drip edge flashing, and it's not properly lapped. Okay. All the way down. Fence touching the side of the house. That's conducive to wood destroying insects by design. Okay, this is not the best fence. Fences are beyond the scope of this inspection. But by the way, this guy's seen better days. That's why they replaced the south fence. Portable sheds are not real estate improvements. They're beyond the scope of this inspection. This deck, at best, is an amateur installation. It's unconventional. It's warping. You do not have proper ventilation underneath it. You have wood to ground contact. Really, this deck has exceeded its economic life. You can maybe do some repairs, but honestly, taking it out and starting over might be a viable option. Just saying. All right, coming along here. There's the back faucet again. No weather cover. We have a little bit of wood damage right here. Over these doors and windows where you have the brickwork, just like you have these weep holes. Okay.